Hello, my name is Werner Puchert, and welcome to the Preludes to Service Design Disrupted, event that's going to be taking place in Barcelona this October 15th and 16th. You can go to sddisrupted.com to check out what we're all about. But we're going to start off with a couple of live streams. So these preludes will be conversations with folks who are involved with the event, like we're going to do today. And then also we'll be introducing some of our speakers. We have some great people on our advisory board to kind of figure out what service design is going to be like in the future, what's happening at the moment. And to start off with, I'm very excited to introduce my colleague, my friend, fellow service designer extraordinaire, Itziar Pobes. Itziar,
Pobes.
we
Itziar
are
Pobes.
Pobes.
But I
Pobes.
was laughing about the extraordinaire more than the Popes, but then that came on top. So
Totally. And I forgot to make my jokes about the heat because we are sitting in a heat wave. I wanted to start off the stream by saying is that if you aren't boiling while you're watching it, you're probably not the target audience. But then I realized like we have people from Canada everywhere involved at the moment, so it's not entirely
it's not
true.
like
But
the other
one of
day
us
I
might pass
actually
out, right, during the course of this.
this can happen because neither Werner nor me are based in Barcelona at the moment, where you have the heat, but at least most people has some form of air conditioning where can spend some time in an air-conditioned space by going to a museum or to the cinema.
Yeah.
But Werner is sitting in Poland and me, I'm sitting in Switzerland, and Poland never needed air conditioning until now.
No.
Switzerland literally forbids it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we are
Nine.
here sharing these hot hours with you.
Great. Let's get cracking.
But
We're
I wanted to say
yeah.
about this in Canada that I had a conversation the other day with a friend of mine, Aaron Joseph, and he was like very literally wearing this like huge anorak and like a bonnet that made of wool, and I was like half naked, like now, never
It's,
felt
what the hell?
so naked in a in a call before. So
Yeah, like it's a bit insane.
crazy time.
Yeah, perhaps the conversation should be around climate change disrupted at the moment. I was joking with someone today when we were talking to some of our advisory board. But
Yeah.
Itziar, let's get into it. I also want to invite folks like if you're watching this live or even if you catch some of the recordings, if you have any questions, because we're going to try and cover a lot of the strategic and of the why of the event with Itziar today. But if you have questions, please pop it in. Myself, Itziar, or the rest of our awesome team might be able to answer those questions. It's really about connecting with the community and to start the conversation, right, Itziar? And to start the conversation is I remember you having a conversation with me and said, listen, I have this thing happening. Are you keen to get involved? And there's a whole story before that. What is this thing and how did you get involved in this? Where does this service design event Disrupted come from?
So that was a few months ago because Barcelona had a service design conference for many years, and it was announced that it was not going to be um, organized anymore. And I was hoping, like I remember even at the last event, speaking with other people from the community that are now part, for example, of our advisory board, and it was like really a shock to us. And yes, I said before that I'm based in Switzerland, but I lived in Barcelona for many years. So for the Barcelona community, it was a shock to lose this event where every year we got to speak with a lot of the designers, service designers internationally, people from other fields coming to inspire us to bring the conversation right home. So it felt really strange to lose that space.
Yeah.
I was hoping that someone else would like come front and decide to organize it, but there was no one else proposing themselves. And so at one point, I thought that we shouldn't miss this opportunity, and and I started gathering a few other crazy people that thought that we could pull off a full conference
Yeah.
in just a few months. And one of them, one of the founding members, and was Bernard. And actually, you were behind the naming of Service Design Disrupted. I
Indeed.
remember in your kitchen, like well, I was going to say the two of us, but actually Martha was there too, and we were trying to come up with names
Yeah,
and
and I think this brings me, Itziar, because I mean, I'm happy that you mentioned that. Like I think the more conversations happen in the community space, like it's just a win-win for everybody. Um, you know, originating from Poland, where there's also a lot of design conversations happening, and in South Africa, for example, it's good to keep those conversations also going in the community, and I'm happy that we're working towards that, especially around the event in Barcelona. One thing I wanted to dive into is also there's, of course, the whole disruption that you mentioned. And I think one of the things that happened when we started having this conversation is that we both experienced certain things happening in the discipline, is that there's a big shift. There's strange things happening at the moment. I at some point felt like, is it just me? But like something's shifting. And in some way, you could say, oh, it's artificial intelligence. And I know, like, I want to roll my eyes when I say that. But there's a lot of other factors coming into play. I just want to ask you, and maybe set the ground for you to kind of riff a little bit about that. Is like, when you explain service design disrupted to someone for the first time, what is the simplest version of why this event needs to exist?
I think so. One thing that I think I was feeling it already before AI or before the big explosion of AI of the last year,
I
because
agree.
AI was already there. I didn't feel it that much because I was in a corporate where you actually felt the introduction of AI most last year and not so much the couple of years prior. But it wasn't the AI. I think a lot of people and how you like exactly as you said, Werner, a lot of people were feeling that something was changing, but they were fearing if the change was something that it was only individual, it was only their own case. And I started like speaking with a lot of people, and everybody was telling similar stories. They were telling stories about layoffs or about fear, about losing a bit the meaning of the work that they were doing, about being in organizations and not understanding anymore what they were doing there or why they were like the purpose for which they had been hired had disappeared,
Yeah.
and it started feeling like a pattern, like a lot of people was doing like feeling the same things. And this is about people that were in house, but also the people that we know that were in agency, they were even questioning what is the future of a service design agency or even a design agency as a whole. And those conversations made us think that we needed an event to come together and first of all recognize that this is not an individual thing, that you don't need to live through this on your own. You can live it with other people, but also that this is a potentially a change in how our field has been working until now, but it definitely doesn't need to mean, like I've seen also in LinkedIn so many posts this year about service design being dead,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
design as
The
a whole
classics.
being dead,
Yeah.
the design process being dead, like how many like iterations of death we've heard in the past few months. And I've heard also other people like paying attention to this and considering, well, what's my next move? Should I become a PM? Should I become, by the way, then you look like I have also a bunch of PMs in my LinkedIn feed, and they're also like hearing PMing instead. So like
Yeah.
apparently everything is dying this year.
Yeah.
But then yesterday, no, 2 days ago, I was in a course taught by Erica Flowers, and actually her point was like, yeah, maybe the rest of design, like as in meaning UX, UI, it's a little bit like being seriously disrupted, but what is staying is service design. So yeah, just
Makes
sometimes there
sense.
is cause for optimism. But anyways, the way we understood the profession, the way that we interacted with organization when there was the big hype of design and everybody was like hiring designers just because they had to. There was a FOMO if you didn't have designers in your team. This is over. And what is coming next? How do we keep doing what we found? Um, meaningful about being part of organizations.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that meaningful thing. I had a conversation today with someone also where we were kind of talking around the same topic, and we both kind of had a snap moment where it's like in the end, everybody in the design community might not always agree on everything, but we're all kind of craving
Mm.
to do meaningful work in some form, or have some kind of impact. But that being said, though, I think sometimes, and we had this debate when we thought about this, the naming of the event, is that the word disruption can be taken up in multiple ways. And I think we kind of did that intentionally. But what does disruption mean for you?
Ooh.
Or
So in
disrupted?
this case, or like the point is that I remember a few years back that it being disruptive was seen as a good value. It was like it meant that you were like really innovative, and that and I think we didn't pay attention to, well, being disruptive and being really innovative sometimes is killing whole markets.
Yeah.
And this was never talked about. But I think it's now our turn. Like now all the people that were responsible for, I don't know, digitizing banks and sending to their home, so all the people that were working in offices and like bank clerks, now we are being disrupted ourselves. We don't know what is the moment in our profession. The way we were working until now is possibly changing, and
Yeah.
we need to think what's next. What is that we will be doing, how we will be exercising our profession, and how do we need to continue designing, or what shape does our job take?
Yeah.
And this is why I think we chose disrupted as a name, not to mention, or not to consider it that disruptive and disrupting things or disrupting service design is particularly interesting, but more as in design has been disrupted, or service
Yeah.
design more precisely has been disrupted. What do we do about it next? And I think that is the interesting thing, to come together and make this reflection about what it means to us if there is a change in our field.
Yeah.
Or how do we revive it, or how do we make sure that the field still makes sense?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, if I can, I mean, this is, I don't think we even spoke about this offline before, but I was reflecting on this recently, because you sit sometimes and you work on a project on your own, and you start realizing that inherently you always fall back on the tools and the methodologies and things that you've used before. And I still, to this day, like, heaven forbid, I was talking to someone today about design thinking, and it's
Mhm.
kind of a term that I am avoiding to mention, but at the core, the methodology, the practices, all the things that I've learned in the past is still something that I apply to this day. Then on the flip side, and I think this is something, and please disagree with me, Itziar, is
Sure.
that what this event is not about is not an event about defining something. Because the reason I say that is I come from user experience design primarily, and I've attended many events where people were on stage, very famous people, doing debates about what UX means, or what is the definition of UX. And then you get to
Oh
this
yeah.
point, it's like, stop defining the damn thing, just do the damn thing. But I still feel if you have the definition on the one side, and then I think in the community, what I've learned over the years is there's so many amazing tools and methodologies. And like every time I speak to you or go to your place for a drink, you introduce me to a new book that I have to buy, and then destroys my whole budget. Like there's so much thinking, and I don't think our event is trying to throw that out the window. It's just
Oh
there's a
no.
gap, right? There's something missing, and there's influences coming in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No one is saying that anything that we did before is past, or that
Yeah,
you shouldn't do it anymore, or that it doesn't have any value. I think this is it, like, of course, we need to see what has value, like what we need to stop doing, what we need to keep doing, and what we need to do that is new and that we didn't do before, or new skills that we need to develop. But the event essentially is not so much about like new methodologies, although of course we can look at how people are practicing service design in the new era or how they are doing things even with AI. But what is most important is the change of perspective.
Yeah.
And also one discussion that we had with the advisory board today was that they were pointing out that yeah, but it doesn't feel that or it doesn't mean that the field has a monolithic approach to this. There is no one answer to what service design is or how you need to practice it or what is the exact future of service design. There might be different ways of approaching this,
Yeah.
and also seeing these tensions and understanding what is your standing between these tensions.
Yeah.
That is also good and valuable, and it is important that we recognize that those tensions exist, that the field has different souls, and that sometimes it really feels very difficult to position yourself precisely because of that, because
Yeah.
you're seeing people that you respect saying things that are contradictory with one another, and it is interesting to, instead of making it look like we're saying the same things, just with different shapes, actually expose those contradictions and those tensions,
Yeah.
and help our participants then take a position of where they stand and what is useful for them.
Yeah, and perhaps we need to disrupt ourselves a little bit, and I think the conversations around that is happening.
Yeah.
Something that I heard today, like today was a crazy day, even with all the heat, because I heard a lot
How
of cool
many
things.
conversations did you have today?
Yeah, I had many. You keep me busy, Itziar. The thing is, one of the conversations, and of course, this is the thing: is it's you don't have to agree, but it's a point for reflection. Is that someone said to me today, service design is something I do, is not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me was a nice parallel. I worked with this. I had service designers in my team, and one of the things is the organization wasn't really buying into that as like, what is this service design? But they totally
Mm-hmm.
bought into what the team was doing. And then at the
Mm-hmm.
end, the team member was called a business analyst, not a service designer. Where,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like some people feel like, I don't see any service design jobs out there. They are there, but they might not be called that, right? But before I go into that tangent, Itziar,
Yeah.
this conversation that we're having now is exactly the reason why we coined kind of, there's influences coming in, and certain layers or forces that come into play, and we in the
Mm-hmm.
event identified three of them. We're going to deep dive them in a second, each three of them. But can you talk a little bit about what we believe those three forces are?
Yeah. So when like in that same conversation where we decided to name the event disrupted, we were trying to figure out what was the event about. And those were like very, very early conversations. But we were trying to see, okay, but what is disrupted, or what is not the event, like why is the service design being disrupted? And we ended up with like three lenses or three big themes. On one side, we saw, well, the change, like there are changes around us that are not related with the field, that are just like bigger forces that that are impacting us. And this has to do with of course, before you mentioned climate change, that's the biggest one of all. But without even going into that, there's like the AI that we also mentioned, but there is a different economic situation at the moment. There is a lot of like differences in also politics, the general political uh,
Environment, yeah.
environment that we have around has changed a lot, both in like Europe, the States, I would say maybe all over, taking into account the latest, for example, elections in Latin America, things like that. And this is changing also how service design is perceived by organizations, or what organizations are pursuing more precisely, and this has an impact on what organizations expect from our profession or from any of those like different roles that end up being filled by service designers.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we have the field that, yes, it's impacted by those forces, but it has its own dynamics and it's also changing. And it has this like different souls or different tensions. We have people, we have also done, or more precisely, Andrea from our team led research with some people from the field that were quite senior in different parts of the globe to understand what is happening, not only from our perspective, and probably we will do another live about those results.
Yeah.
And she found people that, as you said, were more in the camp or in the area of yeah, well, service design is something that I do. It's my job, and I just need to like make it like make a job like any other job. And then people that were really like heavily identifying with service design, and they made service design their personal identity. And there's like more tensions like those, and or people that are like trying to transform organizations versus people that are like, oh well, okay, it's time to just burst that bubble and stop saying that we need to transform the organizations. We're here to serve the organizations,
Oh
and
yeah, I like that.
organizations just want to sell more and they want to earn more money. So this is what we are serving. And so we have all of these influences, all of these people in the market. And I've seen also these discussions on LinkedIn like happening beyond our research, like between different people from the field. And they can get sometimes even aggressive. And so we hope to bring those discussions, not the aggressiveness,
Yeah.
but yes, like surface what's happening with the field. And then finally, there is a very personal side, and we call it the self. And this is where you, as an individual service designer, you need to decide to decide where you're going, where you're coming, who are you right now, and where are you going. If the field is evolving, if it's going somewhere, what are the skills that you need to acquire? If you're no longer going to be called service designer and you will be the business analyst, well, maybe the organization is expecting you to do some service design there, but maybe there's going to be some other business analysis
Yeah.
parts that you didn't know how to do and will be part of your role. Or same if you're becoming a PM, or just even if you're staying within service design, what do you need to develop in this age where you have AI all around, for example, or where the field is like, I think, and sorry for like the digression, but I think a lot of the change that we are seeing today didn't exactly start today. It started already in COVID, for example, when we stopped meeting in person and doing all of these workshops in person. This already changed a lot of how we related with the organizations, with the participants in what we in the projects that we were leading, things like that. And there is more change to come. So what are the skills? How do you need to define yourself, your standing, and the skills that you need to acquire? And this is what we expect. Like,
Yeah.
I was going to say answers, but there's going to be questions in all of these three fields, and ideally, a process that helps you find your standing in all of these three.
Yeah, and I think
fields.
the exploration. I'm very curious. Like I think we have a very interesting set of speakers lined up. I think one of the guys we have coming in is Fuad, who's going to touch a little bit on some of the AI stuff. So that will be there. But then I tend to lean towards the self a lot, because I feel like there's so much out there happening that you can't change the world yourself. You need people to work with you. And I've always had this belief, and I might have mentioned it to you in some of our previous conversations, but I always felt like we were really good at applying empathy to the people that we are designing services for. But when it comes to applying that same empathy to the people we're working with, it sometimes it falls through, right? Because of different tensions. I'm not making judgment statements here, but like someone said recently to me that they believe service design is a lot about facilitation conversations, facilitating design, because ultimately, like I had to humbly admit is that I never designed a service in my freaking life. I co-created a service with a whole bunch of people that do not call themselves service designers. So that's kind of an interesting perspective for me. So yeah, I think there's a lot, but I think the other question is also that we all have different skill sets, and I think that's what you're also saying when you get, we're not going to have the answer, because I don't think the answer is one size fits all. Some people are really good at building relationships, others are good with facilitation, but then how can you kind of evolve and work around your own superpowers? So how do you change yourself or disrupt yourself a little bit?
Well, I think the point is that a lot of ourselves are being disrupted by the forces, by the field, by the organizations where we work. And the skills is also, or sorry, not the skills, the self is also around, well, how do you rebuild yourself? How do you recognize what you're good at, what you're missing, where you're relevant, and how you transform? And one of our partners is the Future Skills Academy. And for example, their point here is that you actually, as a service designer, you have a lot of the skills that are important in the future, that you already have them. You just need to apply them to different contexts. So that's also an interesting take. And I think one of the reasons why they're partnering with us.
Yeah, very excited. We'll be having a conversation with them soon. So
yeah,
subscribe, like, link, hit the buttons, whatever you need to do. I had to drop that in. Just to,
but
to
I was
kind
going
of
to mention another thing about this empathy with our colleagues in organizations, or with the people that we are designing for, or I mean, we're designing for whoever is using the service, but also we're designing for the organization where that service sits, and that's the harder empathy, because we were always told to be the advocates or bring in the outside perspective. And we're not so used to empathizing with the inside perspective. We're seeing them sometimes with like these people that are like making it our job harder.
Yeah, we're an annoyance, Yeah,
a little bit. Like someone that is telling us that this is not legal anymore, or that this is not whatever. But yesterday I was at the Service Design Drinks in Zurich, and a very, very nice event. And I was really happy to see that the other two speakers, they were like both mentioning the importance of having relationships within the organization, of understanding what the organization wants, and at one point, I think it was Martin, but he also even mentioned about, well, how do you need to like empathize with all of the other like people that are affected by your project or your little initiative. And he was putting an example of when they actually didn't reach out to the legal department soon enough, and then that brought the project like 6 months back. But he wasn't mentioning us like, oh, legal just crushed our dreams. More like, hey, we should have gone to see them
that's
before.
more than likely. I was thinking now, like, I think a year or so ago, we were optimizing a communication flow in one of the things that we were working on. And, like the team was sitting there and we're like, yeah, that's great. Let's just cut out this part. And then we forgot to talk to supply chain. And I remember distinctly getting my ass kicked by a very angry Dutch lady. But in the end, you have to kind of reflect and say, like, okay, maybe we should have spoken to you, right? But it's being brave, accepting that, and then moving forward. But I mean, the other thing is also, Itziar, I think we also need to be careful. And hopefully we'll kind of explore this too, is that unfortunately, organizations also have, and sometimes it's also, maybe it's me sometimes, but there is some other unpopular grumpy people floating around. There's not always. It's hard to have empathy for someone who's a bit grumpy or a bit
Yeah,
annoyed with you, right?
but
So it's not all kumbaya. It's you have to deal with very tough people with tough and sometimes not very nice perspectives, right? So yeah,
I think they're incompatible perspectives sometimes.
yeah.
But also, I think I have been a grumpy person myself. So
I'm
sometimes
never
you need to
grumpy.
be great, very good for you.
I think everybody who knows me like is going like throwing like cheese at the
But
screen.
but I think it's yeah, sometimes of course, like I think typically designers always saw that as the organization doesn't understand us. And it is true. A lot of organizations don't know exactly what we're there to do and how to deal with what we're bringing, but or where to put it. But
Yeah,
very often, what I found is that it's not that they were rejecting it. It's that okay, I found what you do interesting. I just don't know where to add it to the process. Like you put everybody else in the room, and I know what they are doing,
yeah,
and I know when to call them, but I don't know when to call you because I never had an experience before of what you're bringing to the team. And so very often we just like seeing uh, more resistance than there is in fact.
yeah. And I think this is all the things we're going to talk about, right? So if I may,
And yeah,
because I thought like
sorry to interrupt you about that, but I
no,
also want to say that when we get in the organizations, what thing that happens is that you become a political actor there too.
yeah,
And designers were really bad at that. We don't understand power, or we didn't before.
yeah,
And everybody else in a big organization understands that they're having a conversation that also has is measuring the different power and working with the power in the in that room
yeah.
and beyond. And those very grumpy people might be so grumpy because we inadvertently are undermining part of their power or are doing something that is completely inappropriate
Yeah, and
and we just didn't realize.
I guess one of the things that I've seen Itziar is, and I think we had similar backgrounds, is that ultimately, you know, my background and I think where we both are going is that we have kind of a consulting approach to this. We are bringing a service into the organization, but then when you're in a org, and this is now I'm talking about my own experience, is that you are serving other people. And it's really difficult because sometimes when you're serving other people or stakeholders, is that then just doing your job doesn't count anymore. So
Mhm.
what you are doing is important. I have an example where my former team and I worked a lot on like making sure that we are working on the right things,
Yeah.
because it's really cool to be busy, but if you're busy with the wrong thing, you have your VP of marketing stressing out about a new launch, and we were supposed to help with research there, but no, someone's fiddling with a button on the website. It makes for a mismatch. Of course, everybody's freaking busy with the damn button, and you can say, yeah, I am very busy, but are you working on the things that are actually moving the needle for those
Mhm.
folks, right? Well, I'm getting a little bit in the weeds here. Let's wait for Barcelona over drinks to
Yeah.
discuss that, right?
Because
But I want to wrap up this because
yeah,
I think
sorry.
the way we framed it is really interesting, and I'm excited. I just want to kind of pitch this at you because I sat this afternoon and I wrote this down just as a wrap on what we discussed. It's like forces explain why things are changing. The field
Mhm.
explains how the discipline is changing. Self is where the decision happens. So that's your own choice. How do you change?
Well, I think possibly, yes. And I think you also make a lot of decisions. It's like when you talk about design and it looks like it's only like one or two big decisions, but it's not true. You're making decisions all over. And I think it happens the same. Like, yes, the big decision might be at the end in the self, but you're making decisions all around. Like in forces, you're making the decision about what forces really are
Yeah.
matter to
And how to
you,
deal with him. Yeah.
how to deal with them, and in field about, well, where in those tensions that we said you're going to position yourself, what is your standing. And then in itself, this has a materialization of where you want to go, or what you need to develop further, or even if you need to like change fields or
Yeah.
so yes, but this is important because I think we haven't introduced to our audience that our the core of our event is not just to inspire people. We don't want you to come and listen passively and get inspired and
Oh
go
yeah.
back home with a bunch of notes and then start thinking what it means. Well, the core of the event is that we wanted to end up with decisions and with something actionable that you take back home. And this is what we are currently also designing as a mechanism with our advisory board.
Makes
We
total
want,
sense. Yeah, there's. I think we both have been in very great events where you walk out really super stoked and inspired. And one of the things we discussed is like, can we actually figure out an event where there's a behavior change or a decision? One thing I want to touch on, and I don't think this is something that you and me both have discussed before. And you can draw a straight line to it, and then it becomes very like cheesy, but this is something that we are actively thinking about, is like we wanted to create some kind of belonging around the event. But I wanted to ask you, in your perspective,
yeah.
like what kind of belonging are we trying to create? I would say, like, caveat this, it's really not about exclusivity, but then what is it?
Yeah, I was going to mention that because when we were like looking into how to position these conference, we saw a bunch of competing conferences and what is everybody like, what is their value proposition, and we saw a bunch of them that were very around exclusivity. And to us, that didn't fully resonate. I can understand because exclusivity like makes you like feel that you need to be part of it because your future depends on it. But we didn't want to make our conference around that. We think that yes, we are at a crisis moment, but it's not a crisis that you solve by saving yourself, by being one of the chosen ones that will still have a job, but more around, well, how do we um, think collectively about our field and how to keep it relevant and how to keep ourselves relevant on one side, and on the other side, also, I think you mentioned it at the beginning that a lot of people are living this moment in isolation, and that makes it much harder
Yeah.
because you have this sensation that you're on your own, like on your own against the forces of the world. And
Yeah.
and that's not true because there's a lot of other like very creative, very reflective, very interesting professionals with which you were interacting before that you can continue interacting with, and we can collectively come and support each other and also think about where we want to go next by reflecting together and not on your own in isolation. And that's the kind of community that we are, or community feeling for now, that we want to create. And also, that's why for us it is important as well to connect with other communities that are already there and that are like-minded,
Yeah.
because like for example, like the HCD community that Jerry is starting to form, and other communities that can be around. We don't need to create
Yeah,
yet
no,
another
I mean,
bubble. We are happy to connect with anyone that is uh, feeling that this is a moment to reflect and to to live together as opposed to
yeah.
like look for personal like
Yeah, can I try and explain what I think it is?
validation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like. I remember a couple, probably a year and a half ago. I can't remember who introduced me, but I connected with a very nice lady who just got laid off, service designer, years of experience. And in the end, we started having a conversation, and the conversation was really around how do we work it out? Because on my end, I was going, I can see the challenges in the market, and rather than, the feeling was never that she was trying to use me to get a job. It was just us sitting together to make sense of what was going on and in helping each other. And I think from that perspective, that's what I would hope from the event, is that it's not about the classic, because remember, I'm an ex-consulting guy, is like, so who can I connect with who's going to organize me the next big job? Maybe it's about connecting with the people that I think I could help, or at least, how we can support each other. But
Well,
Itziar,
that can also lead to a job, but
yeah, for
it's
sure.
not
Like, I mean,
necessarily.
I think one of the biggest things that opportunities now is that how can we work together to unlock some great opportunities? In my opinion, there's so much power, and I mean, just from working the event and talking to different people, the brain power is phenomenal. We could do something with that, right?
Yeah.
Itziar, the one thing that is always important is, this event is for some people and it's not for other people. Of course, we are both people who are totally inclusive. Please buy tickets, whoever you are. But fundamentally, there's a certain people who this event is for. Do you want to talk a little bit about our potential target audience that we've explored?
Yeah. Yeah, well, what we explored is that, of course, this is an event for service designers that are like thinking that this is a moment to reflect as well, but it is also an event very much for any adjacent profession. And I mentioned before that some of the UX designers are considering, okay, maybe if I go up to more strategic level, this is where I find my next field. And of course, they're more than welcome to come and explore with us what is that
What does that
well
mean? Yeah,
how
can
this.
I make a joke,
Yeah, of
Itziar, for a
course.
minute? Because you just said, and I mean, I have a very special place in my heart for the UX community. You said move up. Now I know you meant strategically, but
Yeah.
let's go.
Oh no, I never meant that somehow service
Let's not
designers are
start a
up from
fight.
the UX designers. What I
Whew,
meant is that for some
totally.
people we feel that they can move to a more strategic layer.
Yeah, I'm just
And
teasing you, but yeah, I
yeah,
totally
but
buy it.
no,
Yeah.
never like I actually resisted very much. At one point, I was doing some playbooks about different profiles of designers, and we were working with a consultancy on that. And they were at one point implying that someone that is doing UI, for example, is a less senior person. And then as you grow in seniority, you end up
Ouch.
in service design. And I was like horrified. It was like, no, like you can have a completely like senior
Yeah.
typographer and they're amazing. And you can have a junior
Yeah.
service designer. It's just like altitudes of work, but it doesn't imply any kind of seniority or any kind of additional value,
Yeah.
or additional professional value.
And I think
So
that's the
not
thing
at
what we're
all.
trying to do, right? Is that even if you, because fundamentally, if you join us in Barcelona, it's not necessarily about changing your job. It's about like,
No, no,
how
no.
can you bolster what you currently do? Because as you were kind of explaining this, I'm thinking of a great friend of mine that I worked with very recently, who is fundamentally one of the best designers I've ever worked with, but completely strategic. The conversations we were having was strategic conversations, and I think it kind of goes back to what you just pointed out, right? It's you can't go like this levels, but in your mind you have this. I've done it. I've done a slide. I've done a slide back in the day, but just
And
to, yeah,
also the third
that's where I want to go. Yeah,
demographic or the third segment that we think could be interested in coming is the people who are um, commissioning or who are trying to build or have a team of service designers that they direct, but they are potentially not service designers themselves. That was, for example, your case, Bernard, that you had service designers in your team and you didn't have that background, but you were like building a
yeah,
team of service designers. And if you want to understand better what the field has to offer and how you can like create the conditions for service design to flourish in your organization, you're also more than welcome to come.
Yeah, and just because once again, I think that is an important aspect, is that I think there's a lot of people out there, and I'm one of them, where you need to fill that, you have this need to fill a gap. And if you go to leadership to get the budget for it, you can't say like, we need service designers. Like, they don't get it. Like, what is that about? And I believe that this event will also give you the verbiage for that, and to understand like what is the actual value, and what you want to create in a team, because ultimately a team needs to deliver value. Itziar, we're getting closer to the top of the hour. I want to wrap up with a couple of practical things, and then I'll give you a chance, because I have potentially left something out very important. But I wonder if I can circle. I'm not going to use the corporate slang now. I wanted to circle back. Let's not do that. If we can get back to more of the practical things, is that the event is taking place in Barcelona. It's part of something bigger. That's one part of the question. And then the other thing is, like, we're not entirely there yet, but if you can you talk a little bit about what shape this event is going to take?
So this event is going to be 2 days of, I was going to say talks, but it's potentially talks, conversations, workshops, and moments that are less defined, more informal, so you can actually get to know your peers through the event, or not know them. Maybe you already know them from other events and from the community in general, but reconnect. And there will be an opening party the day before the event. During these 2 days, we're going to be in the D Hub. That is it's at the top of the Design Museum in Barcelona. It's an amazing venue, like really beautiful building, beautiful setting for the auditorium is amazing. And also, one thing that normally people who are not from Barcelona and come to the event don't know is that the building is also the venue of the two institutions that promote design in general, not only service design, but design in general in Barcelona, the BCD and the FAD. And these two institutions are also, in a way, partnering with us by helping us with being part of or being in their venue and during the Barcelona Design Week. That is the bigger event, that is the container of our event, and that they organize. And we are really happy to be part of this fantastic setting. And
Very exciting. Like, I'm trying to contain myself, but yeah, just the vibe in Barcelona itself. Like, we met on it was a couple of months ago when we were there in person with the team, and I don't know what it is, but there's something in the air there. I'm really happy to get back there in the context, because there's some amazing designers there, people who think really broadly about things, but we're also bringing in some cool people. Really excited about it.
Yeah, we're trying to connect this event a lot with the local community as well. So we're bringing, and for now, I think most of the people that we have announced as the speakers are international, but we are also connecting these to the local community.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can, like, everybody can feel a little bit more of this vibe and these, I think Barcelona is an inspiring and very dynamic city, and you can feel it. I personally, now that don't live there, when I'm visiting, I can see there is something in the air.
I'm happy you say that, because sometimes, like classic Werner, the tourist, when I visit a place, like, I wonder if can I live here? Like.
Well, I also think about that more most of the time when I'm traveling somewhere.
Yeah.
But Barcelona is a place where I lived for 20 years, and yes, I still feel the pull. And what is I was going to say something about the city as well, but I forgot. Don't know.
It's awesome. Like, it's Barcelona.
Yes.
Come on. Like.
Oh yeah, that it's in October, and I think people will start not appreciating it so much anymore, now that we have heat all across Europe. But
Yeah.
previously, people used to appreciate that you go to October in Barcelona and it's actually sunny and you have nice weather
It's pleasant.
and you can still walk in the beach. And
Yeah.
so
Man, I'm getting
yes,
excited.
that's
But we still have a lot of
not the
work to
best
do, Itziar.
arguments this week.
We still have a lot of work to do. I have one last question. I mean, before I do that, is there, because I want to ask, let me test this because maybe you'll answer it anyway, but is there anything that you think I've missed? Is there something that we haven't really spoken about?
Probably yes, but I
But we'll
don't
be back,
know.
right? It's not the
We'll be
last time.
back.
Yeah.
We'll be back with more content. We'll be back to introduce a few of the speakers
Yes.
and have conversations with them that are not exactly what we will be talking about in the 2 days in Barcelona in the venue, but that anticipate a bit of that, so you can already feel a teaser of what we will be doing, and with some of our advisory board, because our advisors are not part of the speakers, but they are like incredibly like people with incredible point of views, and we want to
Yeah.
explore those points of view with them ahead of the conference, and we will also introduce a little bit the research and the questions that we figured out that are like in the mind of the community, and don't know, that lots of things to come. And Bernard will be announcing all those lives
Yes.
soon.
Yeah. The next one is already next week with one of our advisory board, Arne. A man who's got a solid background and experience, and it's going to give us a little bit of a bigger picture around his experience, but then it feeds nicely into, I think, ultimately going through the field, the forces that we spoke about, but then ultimately into the self. I'm really excited about that. And then we also in conversation with one of our other speakers, Rachel Dietkus. I don't want to destroy people's surnames without being prepared, but she's also going to be with us.
I think you said it quite okay.
Great. Yes. So she's confirmed. And then also, let me leave the other two names that we spoke about today for later when we have a date down, but definitely that's happening. But I also want to encourage folks to check out the website. We have at least 6 speakers live there already confirmed. The other ones, we want to make sure that they 100% confirmed. Our board is...
And also, sometimes they are confirmed, but they are very slow sending their pictures.
Yeah,
It
I
happens.
mean, yeah, like that, this is the joys of working on an event. We also have our advisory board that we'll also start having conversations with and introducing, doing some great work already in the background. So, and then of course we have the team. So, Itziar, if someone is watching this and thinking, I hope they are thinking this, yes, this is the
I want
conversation I need
to.
to be part of. What do you want them to do next?
Well, I think the obvious thing would be please go and buy a ticket at sdddisrupted.com. But if you're still in doubt or your organization is very slow in buying your tickets, at least follow us so you get all the
Updates.
updates,
Yeah.
and you see all the new speakers that we are confirming and putting on the website on a like weekly basis, I would say. And you can listen to all this like prelude conversations. And yeah, I was going to say, if you can't come, at least you can enjoy all of these conversations. I hope they're meaningful as well.
Yeah.
And if you are also thinking, how can I contribute to this event? Could I come as a speaker
That's
myself?
important, right?
We're still open
Yeah.
for contributions. So do reach out to any of us, and yeah, we'll figure out and work together how you can contribute to the event.
Totally. And I think, if I can interrupt you a second, I think one of the main channels that we are focusing on, of course, is the website where you can get hold of us. But then if you want to get a quick response, also on Service Design Disrupted on LinkedIn is a space where we're very active. We have an Instagram account, but we need to get a bit more active there. But fundamentally, LinkedIn and the website is where you can get hold of us, where the team is really active in responding to folks. We've had a couple of volunteer requests already, which I'm super grateful for. Yeah, I think it's...
More
I
than a
think...
couple, yes.
Yeah, we have a couple of folks already wanting to, and the great thing is that people are just offering their support and their help, which is goes back to what we were discussing about, is that there is a community there.
Yeah.
And
I am really grateful for that. I think a lot of people in very like record time has been like vibing with the event, and they're
yeah,
like writing and offering their help. So if you're feeling that too, yeah, please do reach out. Don't hesitate about it. And also, if you know any of us, like Werner, Marta, Silvia,
Andrea.
Andrea, Eva, or myself, like you can reach for anything through any of us, and we'll get the relevant person in touch. And also, if you know one of our advisors, like we mentioned Arne, but yeah, I'm gonna have a problem now because we don't have all the advisors published. But so we will
Watch this
like
space.
publish,
Yeah.
yeah, but we will publish all the advisors as well, maybe in like when we publish this afterwards. So you can also possibly, you know, one of them,
Yeah.
and because they're very well connected people in this field, and you can reach out through one of them too. Feel free
Great.
to speak with us.
Yeah, let's keep the conversations going. Thanks. And Itziar, if I may, can I shut this down so that we can go cool off
Yes,
wherever we need to
because
go? And I think everybody else
right
was.
now I
Yeah.
think we are like really sweaty.
Yeah. I need to go. Anyway, I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching. If you see these clips
Oh, I
afterwards.
just wanted to
Yeah.
like noticing how, yeah, inappropriate my last comment in the video was. I just wanted to make a little shout out to my former team. They will know what this means, but these are all the absolutely inappropriate phrases that I managed to like say at my time in Zurich, recorded by them and given to me
Oh,
as a
that's great.
present.
That's a good design.
Uh,
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, mine is not for consumption on a live stream. Itziar, thank you very much. Looking forward to see how this shapes up, and you'll be joining us for some of the live streams as one of the co-hosts to have conversations with some of our speakers. So excited about that. So if you're watching this, please follow us wherever you're watching, and we'll come back to you with more things and exciting things from Service Design Disrupted. Please go visit the website at sddisrupted.com for all the information and tickets. Thank you for watching. Cheers, Itziar.